Well, welcome back. Welcome back to Real Life Church Online to our midweek teaching. We're coming up on session 2. On Sunday and last time we discovered that if money could speak, it would pretty much match up with what Jesus did say about money. Now, if you remember in session 1, I talked, what would you do with the spare money or the extra money that we all have? Either we spend it, or we save it, or we're paying off what we spent a long time ago, or maybe we're saving for a vacation or a rainy day, retirement. Well, again, that's a destructive cycle. And the word that we used last week, do you remember what it was? It was the word, that's right, greed. And we defined greed as the assumption that everything that comes our way, every dollar that comes our way is for consumption. Every single dollar that we have is meant for me. It's either meant to spend now or to save for later, but either way, greed is the assumption it's all for my consumption. Now, of course, we looked at what Jesus said, and Jesus disagreed with this whole idea that my money is for my consumption and I'm to spend all of it on me. And he didn't mince words about it. He said that life does not consist of an abundance of possessions. In other words, it's not about stuff. It's not about upgrades and renovations and newer and nicer. Life is so much more than that. In fact, if money could talk, we're reminding ourselves now, if money could talk, it would say, I can add meaning to your life, but I'm not the meaning of life. Now, this week, we're going to discuss the second thing our money could say, if it could talk. And it actually does match up with what Jesus said. Here's what money would say. The moment you think you own me, the moment you think you own money, I actually own you. That's what money would say. The moment you think you own me, I actually own you. Now, here's a graph, okay? We're going to talk about finances using a graph. What a better way to talk about money. Now, here on the x-axis is the timeline of your lifetime. And on the y-axis is going to be the amount of money that you make. Now, let's play this out. The truth is, okay, if we allow our income to actually match our spending, and this is what I mean by this. If you have a $45,000 a year job, you're going to spend $45,000. If you make $55,000, you're going to spend $55,000. If you make $100,000, spend it. If you make $200,000, spend it. $250,000, you say, hang on now, hang on. If I made $250,000 a year, I probably wouldn't spend it. Perhaps, probably not. Because we kind of grow into our spending habits. And if I spent everything when I made $45,000, $55,000, $100,000, if I make $250,000, I'm likely to spend it also. Plus, there's a whole lot of financial pressure that comes with making money like $250,000 a year. Actually, a lot of our graphs look like this, that our spending far exceeds our income. Maybe because you were laid off, maybe because you decided to leave a job, maybe you changed careers, so you spent and you borrowed, and now you're upside down. And the next thing you know, you have a money problem. And let me tell you something, you have more than just a money problem. You have all kinds of problems. When money becomes a factor, you have a marriage problem, because every conversation now is about money. The accusations begin to fly. How could you? Or why did you? Or how did you spend this? Or didn't we talk about that already? Lots of folks with lots of stuff have lots of financial pressure. You see, your life is actually becomes like this because you become a slave to your money. Your money owns you. I know. You bought yourself right into slavery. Visa, American Express, student loans, they actually become our masters. See, they're in business to facilitate your happiness, to make things easier for you, and they become your masters. Now, Jesus, he did talk. And he did say some things. And here's the spoiler alert. According to Jesus, we don't actually own our money. It's not actually ours. Now, we think it is, of course. And why wouldn't we, right? I mean, we use words all the time like, I earned it, I made it, I put in the hours, it's my name on the paycheck, it was deposited into your account. And of course we think we own that money, that thing, that stuff that money can buy. We actually manage it. And Jesus tells a parable. And this is what Jesus did say. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and he entrusted his wealth to them. Now, in this parable, there's always a God figure, okay? And there's always an us figure. There, in the parable, there's always somebody that represents Jesus's audience, and there's somebody that represents God the Father. And if you read this parable and you read the whole parable in context, it becomes very, very clear that the wealthy man, the man that's going on a journey, well, that represents God. And the servants to whom the wealth is entrusted to, well, that's the us. Now he continues in this parable. It says, it will be like a man who goes on a journey, who called his servants and he entrusted his wealth to them. Now notice, he doesn't give them his wealth. This wasn't a loan. It was just to manage his money for a little while he was gone. What percentage of the money did the servants own? Let's make sure we get this clear because this is important. Nada, nothing, zero, zilch. The servants didn't own anything because the master owned it all. All of it belonged to him. 5 bags of gold he gave to one, 2 bags of gold he gave to another, and another he gave 1 bag. And each according to their ability. And the master left on his journey. Essentially, the guy gets his servants together. He gives them a portion of his wealth. And he says, I expect you to do with my wealth what I would do with my wealth. And I want you to manage it the way you think I would manage it. Now, I want to remind you, you will have an opportunity to report on this when I come back. And you know what happens next, right? He returns. And he asks the servants what they did with his money. Now, 2 of the guys did pretty good. The third guy, well, the 2 of the guys, they doubled, okay, what their master gave them. But the other guy, he kind of struggled. And Jesus continued the parable. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and he settled the account. And now this is where the point of the parable becomes very clear. The servants did not get to keep the money that they were managing. They didn't get to keep the extra money that they made for the master. All of it went back to the master. Why? Because 100% of it belonged to the master and 0% of it belonged to the servants. They were managers. They were not the owners. Now, it's easy in this parable to get caught up in the unfairness, maybe. I mean, one guy got 5, another guy got 2, and only one guy got 1. In fact, you might be stuck right there. I mean, you might be looking around in your world and saying, well, why did they get so much more than I did? And I only got this 1 bag of gold or this 2 bags of gold. The point of this parable is simply this. Whatever amount of money that each of the servants was given to manage was outside of their control. The issue was how they managed what was given to them. Think about it. When you sit down with a financial planner and you're talking with that financial planner who is managing your money, and he says to you, well, I'm really not all that organized, and I really don't keep track of where your money goes. I'm not really sure where your money is right now. About that time, I'm going to start looking for somebody else to manage my money. Because if you're managing my money, I want to know exactly what you did with my money. I want you to be able to give me a clear account of what happened. And if you're one of those financial managers that are like that, you might just get fired by God. That's really true. You might. Maybe we need to know what we're doing with our money to give an accurate account to the one who owns all of it. So this is what I want you to do this week. I want you to spy on your money. I want you to develop a budget where you keep track of every single dime that you spend. Save. I want you to keep a journal, an actual tool that will do for a few weeks or so. I want you to see who owns who. Now, have a discussion with your wife, your husband. Do this together as a family. Have your kids join in with you. Where do they spend their allowance? Where do they spend the money that's coming in? So they can figure out also, who owns me? Do I own money, or does my money own me? What a great question. Now, I want to encourage you to come back on Sunday, okay? We're going to have another conversation about money, and if money could speak, what it would say to us. Now, I hope you're still watching, okay? Because I think this is going to be a great topic on Sunday morning. I think you're really going to like what we're going to be talking about. I hope to see you in person, first of all, okay? Sunday at 9, 10:30, and 12 o'clock in Spanish, or one of our online services, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or church online, doesn't make a difference. I want to see you back on next Sunday to hear what money would say if money could talk. Have a great week.